Cleveland Cavaliers escape in San Antonio with a 114-113 victory over the San Antonio Spurs. Anthony Moeglin here alongside my partner, Spencer Spin Davies. Spin, the madness gets started on Friday night in San Antonio. Man, oh man, the Cavs should have lost that game.
Yes, they should have. They were playing with the basketball gods and almost got exactly what they deserved. Luckily for them, every W counts the same, so the magic number is down to 1, but they're going to feel sour after this one, especially the way that they came out in that first half, executing on all cylinders, looking terrific. Yeah. Team ball, Evan Mobley was going insane. Donovan Mitchell looked great, made a ton of threes, but man, that second half, they just, as we put it before this stream even started, they just stopped playing. Stopped playing the game. And when you do that and you mess with anything, kind of that karma comes back to bite you. And that's exactly what happened tonight. And they got lucky that Harrison Barnes didn't put that layup in because they would have had a different story tonight.
Yeah, it would have been a bad deal, man. I mean, the Cavs, like you said, kind of had it in the bag, took their foot off the gas pedal, and when you stop playing like that, these NBA teams are so good. I mean, you're up 12 with just over 2 minutes left to go in the game, and then Chris Paul does what he does best and kind of like work that team back into it. And frankly, like Harrison Barnes got the better of DeAndre Hunter on that final possession and just blew a layup there at the rim, man. That is not what you want, especially like you said, as the Cavs got off to a great start. As everyone's jumping in here, first and foremost, appreciate you coming and hanging out with us. Let's get in that comment section. Let us know what you thought of tonight's game. We're going to pull a lot of these comments up, especially as we're getting towards the playoffs. Want to know where your guys' heads are at, because here's where we're at here. Damn sloppy. They're lucky. They are sure lucky that they got a win here, Spin. And before I think we get to the good, Spin, because I think that there's a lot of that, and I think it's necessary that we get to it. Towards the end of that game, man, it just felt like, everyone, not only did they take their foot off the gas pedal, but the clutch guys weren't doing the things they needed to do. Donovan Mitchell with an air ball late in the fourth quarter, or Darius Garland an air ball that led to a shot clock violation on that second to last possession. Doing things uncharacteristic of what they're used to is not a good sign, as we're just a couple weeks away from the playoffs here.
For sure, and they weren't even close. The shots were not even close, and I think that there was that isolation ball that I always kind of scoff at everybody who says that the Cavs play ISO towards the end of the game. I think that it's a little less than that in a bigger sample size, but tonight they did not share the ball the same way they did in that first half. And I think there was a great comment that I just caught here. Evan Mobley barely got any touches in the second half, and that was after he was ablazing in the first half, more specifically the first quarter, where he knocked down 4 triples and was really just kind of commandeering everything. Luckily they have DeAndre Hunter, who's able to break down guys off the dribble, get his own, create his own. I feel like Darius was trying to do a little bit too much one-on-one tonight. I feel like Donovan got to that point towards the end of the game, and they just can't abandon who they are towards the end of the game here. That's not who they aspire to be. They know better than that, first of all. And I think that this isn't indicative of what they've been doing, but for this night in particular, that is exactly what happened.
It's not good, and the one that's really concerning is what you saw from Evan Mobley, right? Just gets out of the gates, incredible in the first quarter, has no shot attempts in the second quarter, has just 3 shot attempts in the third quarter, and then just 2 shot attempts in the fourth quarter. Like something like that, Spin, freaks me out a little. Not freak me out, but kind of concerns you a little bit, because it's like, hey, we've spent all year talking about how Donovan Mitchell has kind of let these guys grow and become stars. And now you are getting to a point in the season where it's like, all right, hey, this is Evan Mobley's night. We've seen it a couple times over the past couple of weeks where he can get off on a night and be the difference maker, the superstar that we know he can be. But tonight, man, you got to keep going to him. There is no reason that you pull off the gas and you don't give him the lion's share I shouldn't say the lion's share of the shot attempts, but a healthy amount of shot attempts until he gets cold and proves that he doesn't have it the rest of the night. You got to keep going to this guy. He had the hot hand.
They do. They have to keep going to him when he's playing like that. And he also has to demand the ball more in this situation. Especially, we know that Jared Allen didn't play a single minute in the second half. So he was the man that was at the 5 and was getting the majority of the minutes. He played 37 tonight. And for him to not have shot attempts is just outrageous, especially the way he was playing, the hot hand that was just on fire in the first quarter. Like, they came out and I think they made 10 threes in the first quarter. And I know it's hard to keep up that kind of production. And I'm going to kind of level with him on that, but that's no excuse to not keep playing the same way. Shoot. I mean, Sam Merrill bailed him out with a lot of threes tonight. He had a lot of timely threes. Good for him. He made some big shots, but they were not as cohesive in that final 24. And I don't know if that's concerning. I think that this is just them playing with their food a little too much, knowing that San Antonio's, in that development mode and that they can kind of coast. But I mean, Devin Vassell didn't quit. That Chris Paul was not going to let them leave that down. And, Stephon Castle had a solid second half. So that's what you get. It's what you get when you stop playing.
There's an element to this of Cavs get to 62 wins on the season. I still don't know. I think my record on post-game shows is 20-1. I don't think that I do losses. We save that for Spencer German. But there's an element of this where we're so used to the winning, and we've kind of gotten. I'm going to use the word spoiled. We're not spoiled in that sense, but spoiled with the wins, right? And it is always good to go on the road and get a victory. I'm going to pull up a comment here and want to get your take on it. Cavs turned the ball over 15 times tonight. They're averaging about 13 on the season, so it wasn't a crazy astronomical number. But is there anything you saw or you noticed from the turnover category that maybe stood out, concerned you, or anything along those lines?
It's not the amount of turnovers, it's the stretch of turnovers. It's the compounding mistakes. That is what kind of has gotten them into trouble before. It happened in the Knicks game as well in the first half the other night. They just can't speed themselves up. They can't play to the opponent's pace. They know that they can play any kind of speed or pace that any team plays. They are a 3-pronged squad when it comes to that. They can play that slow down game in the half court. They can run you out of the gym in transition, and then they can play that regular pace that most NBA teams play now. So there's no need to get caught up in somebody else's game, and just, you got to know when to settle. You got to know when to push it. And they have a good feel for that. Tonight, in the second half, I feel like they're trying to just outscore them, to be quite frank with you. Because I didn't see enough on the defensive end, and especially towards the end of that fourth quarter. It looked like you said, when they got up 12 or 14 or whatever, and they kept answering those runs, they were like, all right, we got this in the bag. There's 6 minutes left. Let's go home. There is no going home until the buzzer sounds. Yeah. That's how this goes. Yeah,
there's 48 minutes in a game for a reason. You got to play all 48 of them. All right, we've talked about the negative portion of it. We got negative for 11 minutes. Let's talk a little positive here. One positive is that we got a great live crowd in here, 400 viewers here. So jump into that comment section. I know it's a late night Cavs show. I know, hey, Spin, for a stretch there on that West Coast trip, we were doing Cavs After Dark, and this feels right. It feels like we're back in the mix. Back in the mix. Not a place I want to be for 5 straight West Coast games that all tipped at 10:30. But regardless, we're back in it. But Spin, one thing I wanted to talk about, DeAndre Hunter. I mentioned him on that final possession in a negative light, right? Didn't have the best possession there. We get lucky. But he goes 29 minutes tonight, scores 18 points, 7 rebounds, 7 of 16 from the field, 4 of 8 from behind the arc. He continues to be an X factor for this team. He's not a guy who's going to give you 30. He's got a 30 ball in him, I'm sure. But for what this team needs, he's so good at defending, and he's so good in his role as that stretch 3 guy, but a guy who can get after the basket and score points when the Cavs need it.
Yeah, and play in the minutes at the 4 in the second half. Again, going back to Jared Allen not playing at all in the second half for the rest reasons. DeAndre is so good at creating his own shot, but he's also able to play off the catch. And I think that that's a part of his game where he has an advantage inherently because he's as big as he is and he has as long of a wingspan as he has. So even if guys are there contesting, they're not really contesting.
Mhm.
And the thing about DeAndre too is he has been shooting lights out for the Cavs since he's gotten here. There was like one stretch of 5 games where he was just like okay, but for the majority of the time he's been with Cleveland, he's been just knocking down corners, he's been knocking down wings, and they've all pretty much come on pull-up fashion and catch-shoot fashion. So it's really whatever way offensively he sees fit, because a lot of the times he does attack smaller guys or tries to beat, opponents off the dribble, but I think he's just kind of able to do it all on the offensive end, which is exactly what they traded for. Unfortunately, you haven't seen him too much with the core four. You saw that lineup the other day before the end of the first half against New York, and I'm sure that we're going to see more of that going forward, but I think regardless of who he's playing with, he just has a good feel for everything and knows when to attack, knows when to give it up, and is also starting to improve his chemistry with his teammates.
Yeah, no doubt. And you mentioned something I think is really important there. Like the Cavs could have traded for a number of different guys at the trade deadline, but like his fit in this group is so good because, like you said, he's so good off the catch. And that allows Donovan and Darius, when they're in the game, to be their ISO type guy where they can go create off the dribble. They can go create off of a pick and roll. And we've seen how effective that lob is to Jared Allen, Evan Mobley at the rim. But what makes that effective is the fact that nobody can help on it because you have Max Strus on one side and you have DeAndre Hunter on the other, and both of those guys are knockdown guys, and he fits so well in that spot. Another guy who fits really well, Spin, in that catch and shoot role is Sam Merrill. Tonight, 3 of 7 from behind the arc. That's what he's in there for. If he's shooting it, I want it to be behind that 3-point line. And only goes for 9 points, but I think it's a big 9 points. And he's shooting it with a lot of confidence. What are you seeing out of Sam that you like as we're getting closer to the playoffs here?
You didn't see it as much tonight, but I just love how he's able to play off the handoffs from Evan Mobley and Sam Merrill. Jared Allen. And I think that Sam has done a really good job of, in the half court, making sure that he's running around and drawing attention, because then you're going to get closer closeouts. You're going to get guys who are chasing, and that's going to end up opening things for everybody else. That's just how spacing works, and that's how cutting works. I think the timeliness of the triples he had tonight were big, because it was either at the tail end of a Spurs run where the Cavs had been scoreless, or there was a momentum going the other way, and he ends up kind of staving it off just with a made shot. I feel like those are more valuable than some of the threes that were made tonight because of the situation of the game. And with Sam, he's always going to give you his best defensively. He's not the biggest guy, but he will absolutely wall up to the guys that he is assigned to. And at the very least, he drew a charge tonight. Yeah. He's able to at least make him feel his body. And that's a big thing for them. And the thing is, too, what we talk about on Courtside with Cavs on SI, our podcast, is that Sam and Isaac, they give you options. It's dependent on matchups. It's dependent on feel of the game. They're both going to play in the playoffs. I think that that's a no-brainer at this point. Do they play together? Do they play separately in these lineups? Who knows? That's what we're going to figure out with Kenny Atkinson as we go forward. But it's never a thing where you have to put a divide between those two. They both bring their own qualities. I think that Isaac obviously is more athletic. He's obviously somebody who may cut from the corner a little better. And in transition, Isaac is head and shoulders above, I think, everybody else just because of how fast he is. Sam, on the other hand, that's your movement shooter. That's a guy that comes off of the handoffs and can shoot with his shoulders square to the rim if he's not set, and is able to draw attention off the ball more than someone like Isaac can. So they have their own qualities, and it's good to have these options for Kenny when you go into the playoffs, because you can't just be one-faceted.
Right. And having those guys is so big. And here's a conversation. Usually we bring these up here at the end, Spin. But here's one I want to read to you and get your opinion on it, because we talked about how good DeAndre Hunter was again tonight. The flip side of that, Max Strus, not his best game. 1 of 6 from the field, 1 of 5 from 3, 3.6 boards, 3 assists. Miggy, thanks for the comment. First of all, thanks for watching. Miggy says, Strus gave you nothing tonight versus a rebuilding team with nothing to play for. It's time to move him to the bench and put Hunter into the starting lineup. Spin your take on that. I have a thought on that, but want to hear what you have to say.
So I feel like Max and Jarrett Allen in particular have a really good pick and roll game. So this has nothing to do with the stats. I feel like he's the best at getting him the ball in the pocket, and he's also somebody that's good at the hit and hand back, as Kenny would like to say. And he's also good at finding them for alley-oops. Yeah. Max is somebody that always seems to get loose balls, always seems to be in the right position at the right time. He gets you rebounds and possessions, which Kenny's looking for. I would argue to you right now that Max Strus is actually a better rebounder than DeAndre Hunter. So maybe that goes into the theme of why Strus has stayed in there. I think Kenny really relies on net rating with Max. Tonight, if you look at 3 of his triples that he tried, they were like all right around the rim. Yeah. So I don't have any concern about his shooting per se. Now, defensively, DeAndre's got more length. He's obviously got more size. So this is going to be something that's based on matchups. Mm-hmm. And DeAndre plays really well with Ty coming off the bench. I know that's not the case right now because Ty's dealing with his tendonitis, but I feel like that's also coming into play with this decision. And I think that we're pointing the wrong direction here if we're looking at Strus in the starting lineup because he's not a net negative. I know he hasn't had the best couple of past games, but he had a really, really freaking good March.
And Spin, what I would also say to that is like, and I talk about it often, whether I'm on air or talking with you and Spin pre and post show, like, I think Strus is like Mr. Streaky. Like he's a streaky guy. And I'm not the only one who thinks that. But if you get out and he's on, he's liable to go for 25 and make 6 threes and really light it up and be a difference maker. The difference is if he's off, that doesn't mean he shuts down. There's a lot of shooters in the past where it's like, hey, you're off. I'm useless in the game. That's not Max Strus. He's going to give you 100% effort at all times on the defensive end and rebounding the basketball. So I keep him in the starting lineup for that reason because he's going to give you effort whether he's making shots or not. If he's making shots, it's a bonus. I would also say DeAndre Hunter coming off the bench as the 6th man is such a power move because like he'd be a star. He could be a starter on pretty much every team in the NBA, could be a starter on this Cavs team, but you bring him off the bench and it's like in wave 2 when it's time to give Donovan a rest or whomever a rest. Hey, guess what? We have a potential 6th man of the year coming in, and good luck dealing with him because he can shoot the 3. He's our best defender, and he gives just an extra boost when it's time to get into some bench minutes.
6th and 7th man. If you look at Ty Jerome in his case for the award, right? So that's a great point. And let's not forget too that DeAndre's been playing off the bench pretty much all year. So why mess with something that's not broken? I know you want to see him with the core 4. I get that. And I do too. I really want to see him too. But it doesn't mean that he has to be in the starting lineup. Yeah. It's not about who starts, it's about who finishes. Now, to play devil's advocate, when we talked to Kobe Altman when he made this trade, he pretty much probably assumed that DeAndre would be out there to start and mentioned how they could be getting off to good starts with DeAndre in the lineup because he'd get a deflection or he'd get a steal and maybe the Cavs be off to the races because of what he's able to do on the defensive end. And obviously we know what he can do on the offensive end. We just detailed that. Mm-hmm. So if they want to get off to better starts, maybe. But again, I don't think this is just a Max Strus thing. I think this is DeAndre being as effective as he's been off the bench all year. If you really want my honest opinion on that.
Yeah. And like you said, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, especially this late in the year. Now, what I am excited about, I almost cut you off. I'm glad I didn't because I think that was a great point that you made. I'm really – part of the playoff run that I'm really excited to see is how creative Kenny's going to get in these lineups. Like we've seen it be – you and I and Spencer as well, we could pretty much watch a game and know – if we were watching with our eyes closed, we hear the first buzzer. All right, we know who's coming in. We know who's coming in. You can kind of get into a rhythm with it. Now, when we start seeing these matchups, and you get into Game 3, Game 4, Game 5, I'm curious to see what Kenny has up his sleeve because he has been doing some experimenting, trying different lineups, and doing stuff. Tonight, I think was a little bit of your first kind of appetizer to it. We've spent the last 3 weeks talking about, this team's going to take 10 deep into the playoffs, 11 deep into the playoffs. You've been very adamant about They could, but they're not going to. Tonight, a good example of it. 8 guys get over 20 minutes of tick. Javonte Green and Craig Porter Jr. Have 9 minutes and 6 minutes, respectively. So it was primarily 8 guys. Evan led the way with 37 minutes. That's not characteristic of what we're used to seeing, but that's why you trim it out early in the year in January and February. And then as we're getting closer to the end here, start ramping this thing up and letting these guys know that, hey, we're going to call on you to play a good majority of these games in the playoffs.
And you want to get your wind up when it gets to the closest time of the year, because if the reserves or if the guys that are lower in the pecking order aren't up to par, then you can lean on your guys to play a 40-minute game if you need to. And Kenny's not that kind of style. And usually that doesn't work that way because the Cavs are so deep and they're never usually all off at the same time. But in case of that, break glass in case of emergency, right? And that's, Evan and Darius and Donovan, like those guys have been able to go that amount of minutes in the past and almost did it too much for JB Bickerstaff. Now we're seeing Kenny kind of go back to what they've been used to in the past, getting their endurance up, getting their kind of wind up, and making sure that they're ready for what comes to them in the playoffs if need be. I don't think that he's going to necessarily play them as much as he has been in April. Maybe you'll see the 34 to 35 minutes is more likely than 37 to 40. But they have options. Again, going back to the options thing, like Ty and DeAndre are probably, 6 and 7. And then you've got Sam and Isaac, and you even have Dean in there that we haven't talked about, that he's been out with illness the last couple of games. So this is really about kind of just an endurance thing, really what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And let's tell the truth here, right? We're wrapping up our show tonight. We have an awesome crowd. First and foremost, thanks everybody for hanging out with us. Jump in that comment section. I'm going to pull a couple up, but Spin, let's tell the truth about this. Good win, horrible last 5 minutes. Yeah, I can get down with that. Like 42 minutes of good, or 43 minutes of good basketball, 5 minutes of like, what are you guys doing?
I'd call it like 30 minutes of good basketball. All right. Quite honest.
Greatness. Thanks for the comment. Spin disagrees with you. He's going to.
Well, here's the thing. There's no such thing as a bad win because it's a win, right? So I will agree with you on the good win. Terrible last 5-6 minutes of the game. Agree with that. I don't think that was a good first 43 minutes or whatever of the game, though. I think that you saw signs in the third quarter of them starting to let their guard down. Yeah. And that's what ended up biting them.
Yeah. I'm with that. Any concerns, Spin? I mean, we got Farhan here. Appreciate the comment here. This team just keeps making me doubt them more and more every day. I promise I do know how to read. Spin, what is your overall concern level? Because it feels like these past couple of weeks we're seeing some things that maybe we don't love to see.
I don't love seeing this one. This one goes up there with the Kings loss.
Yeah.
I don't think that was their best efforts, obviously. The road trip did not concern me, believe it or not. It was a scheduled thing. They played 16 freaking games in March, people. So can get over that part. I saw a lot of good in that Clippers game. That final score was not indicative of how that game went. They should have won by double digits in that game. And in the same breath, that game against New York, I know they didn't start great, but they ended up holding the Knicks to like 30 points up until like the 6-minute mark of the fourth quarter. So that, I think, in itself shows you who they really are. The first half of this game show you who they really are. Mm-hmm. They played with the basketball gods tonight. This is not who they are. Relax on that. But be angry. I understand. I was ripping them at the beginning of the show. Watch the first 10 minutes. I promise you.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. For those of you who straggled in here towards the end, jump back to that start. We told the truth there for the first 11 minutes. It was 11 minutes of negativity, and then we turned it positive. Hey, I'm not going to have a negative show. If anybody's been watching any of our stuff, there ain't going to be a negative show as long as I'm on it. Spin, a request that you and I both have for everybody in here watching. We got over 1,000 live viewers. We got over 1,000 on X. I know for a fact not all of you are following us on X. So if you're watching this video, hit that follow button. We appreciate everyone supporting us, watching our content, reading our stories. We got stuff everywhere. So if you're on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. Know that we got videos, especially when the guys come back home. Spin is on site every single game, pregame, postgame, sounds from the locker room, from coach, from everybody. You got us talking along with our partner Spencer German. Excuse me, it's hard with the spin sometimes. Hey, Spin. We got to shout out our boy John Rudder. Doesn't get enough love.
He
Ruddy,
does not.
Every single game day, there's a pregame show on the YouTube channel. So make sure you're subscribed, you're following along. Also, Spin and Spence do a weekly Courtside with the Cavs podcast. So you get that on YouTube, also anywhere else that you get your podcast. Last plug for me, right below us on our ticker here, head over to our website, si.com/NBA/Cavaliers. We got all of our written content over there as well. Spin, before we get out of here, did I miss anything? And any final thoughts on the night?
No, I think we wrapped it up pretty good there. They come back Sunday to face the Kings for a 6 p.m. tip. I'm looking forward to that, seeing how they respond, because the Kings got the best of them in Sacramento a couple of weeks ago, and they're going to be looking to get their revenge, especially after this one.
No doubt about it. A fun week in San Antonio. The Cleveland Cavaliers and the Spurs kick what is an awesome weekend off. They got the golf tournament there. They got the PGA Tour in San Antonio. Then they got, obviously, the crown jewel, the Final Four. Spin, real quick, 30 seconds. Final Four, what do you got? Who's your champion?
Oh, man. I think that, I don't know, for some reason, I feel like Alabama's going to win it all. I don't know.
Brother, stick to the NBA. How about you stick to the NBA? Bama got thumped by Duke last week.
Oh, my gosh. Wait, I was thinking of the other eight. I really was thinking of the other eight. It was Auburn. My fault. Yeah. My fault.
Oh, Alabama. Yeah. Any Alabama fan watching can be like, oh, you confused us with Auburn. Thank you.
I did.
That's confusing Ohio State with Michigan. That's exactly what you just did. Stick to the NBA. Hey, Spencer could tell you the 13th man on the New Orleans Pelicans, but he can't tell you who's in the Final Four of the NCAA tournament. Everybody, thanks so much for hanging out with us tonight. My quick Final Four, it's Duke versus Florida. Duke wins the national title, and we all have to see the Blue Devils hoisting the trophy. Everybody, thanks so much for hanging out with us. For my partner, Spencer Spin Davies, I'm Anthony Moeglin. Cleveland Cavaliers winners in San Antonio, 114-113. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight on the Cleveland Cavaliers on SI YouTube channel.
War Eagle.